let's link up with Krista on the FYX. She's a wellness coach with a focus on mental well-being and physical strength.
I am an online nutrition coach. I like to say I'm a nutrition mentor because I like to guide my clients a little bit more into the everyday steps that it takes to completely change a lifestyle and their habits. As probably a lot of you guys listening have realized that it's not just about the food. The food is just like almost a side effect of all the other shit going on. Can I swear on this? Okay, yep. All the other shit going on in this. Otherwise, you might as well not have me on. All the other shit.
I started to realize that I forgot to tag a lot of my content as explicit, and I should.
It's about to get raunchy in here. So yeah, I help people change their patterns and their habits. I really work and dive in deep with hormonal dysfunction, thyroid disorders, menopause, people who have chronic dieting history, people who are type A stress cases, CEOs, everyday housewives, like moms who have kids and they're homeschooling with COVID and they're just dealing with a lot of stress. And, I feel like why I matter or why I should matter or whatever the context is there's nothing that you are going through that I pretty much haven't experienced in one shape or form and have walked through. Like I don't, and I'm not saying that in a light of where it's like, I've already done it. And like, you can like, anyone can just achieve anything you want to achieve. And like, if you have trauma, it's just like, get over it. Like
none of that toxic positivity over here. None of that. We're real.
First of all, fuck you, whoever came up with toxic positivity.
I know.
It's okay.
I hate that.
Good fucking mood. Yeah. But I will tell you that I have walked through struggles. And when you've walked through struggles like drug addiction, fertility issues, binge eating, eating disorders, sexual trauma, physical trauma, emotional abuse, been the abuser, you definitely can relate a lot more to people and you can empathize more with people. And when you've walked through it and when you're looking at someone as a different person and not yourself, it's a lot easier to see, oh, well, all they need to do is ABC. I have a professional who helps me. I have a nutrition coach. I have someone who does my hormones, and I have somebody who does my mental health. And I go to them because they can see me in a light that I can't see myself, because sometimes it's hard to see ourselves looking back at ourselves.
Yeah.
So one of the things I really love, one of the things I love about my life, like I see no sadness and no pain. I feel like God has given me an absolute gift with all the stuff he has put in my life and all the things he has put as quote unquote roadblocks, because it's really given me the ability to help and empathize and help clients utilize the tools they might need to also walk through the same things so we can all achieve that greatness together.
I love that. That's amazing. And there's so much to unpack there. And before we initially started recording, we were talking about you not typically sharing so much about your personal story. So before we do that, because I totally want to dive in the first half of the episode, really talking about you and then moving into nutrition, and kind of using me as the example, because as I mentioned in the introduction, I've been working with you for the better part of, I don't know, at least 3 months now. Yeah. And I'm eating more food in a deliberately intentional way than I ever have, which has been really cool for me to see, finally getting back into working out again. And to your point about seeing yourself in a way that you cannot see you and having that reflection in that mirror, I've been able to do that with you so quickly. And like we've said it, and we've only met in person one time, and we're together for like maybe 48 hours, if that, because half the time we were like in lectures, we weren't really talking. And you just have this amazing ability to connect with people in that way. And I'm so appreciative of you for everything you've taught me that I've been able to carry on to my clients and then see in myself and reflect back in those other people and just have like a different way of looking at things. And I think it can be really hard in this industry when you're around people often who kind of can get like protective or competitive. And it's great that we both have found circles and other people to collaborate with. And you've kind of brought me into, circles of people that you really respect and admire and have learned from, to be like, hey, like, let's talk about these things and collaborate rather than be like, oh, like, how could you have a nutrition coach? You're like, you're supposed to know everything. Or, oh, like, I'm not going to tell you kind of like my perspective on what I do with clients because that could be taking away from my business in some way. It's so not like that. I don't identify with people who have that mentality of this scarcity mindset, and it's all about growth. And I think what you said about the roadblocks and the way to move away from the pain and the discomfort and then take that and help other people, it totally sums up the point of this is how you get better versus the whole idea of like respond versus react. And what makes a person is the person who responds from those situations and what they do to quote unquote get out of it, right? And move on from it in a healthy, mature, growth focused way. So that's kind of my little monologue on all the things I love about you in a little bit more abstract
so much. Yeah.
realm, of course.
And I'm accepting of that. Like, you know, that's which is hard. Like that's a newer thing in my life is being like, oh, thank you. I accept that.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Aren't compliments hard to accept?
Wow, so hard. And when you just go like, thank you, I accept that. And you don't go, well, it's really nothing. Well, I just, you know, it's just, it was on sale. Like, just thank you.
It's like, take it, right? Like you're a badass. Like, you know, that you have so much energy and I love that. And I'm such a believer that people come into your life when you attract certain things and you want to become a certain way. And I feel like that's 100% why we connected, because there's so many things that you've shared with me on a personal level that have helped me kind of make decisions that, again, like you said, have nothing to do with food at all, but ultimately help me in that journey as well. So before we get any deeper, tell me, let's talk about coffee, because you know that's one of my signature questions and a signature drink in my day that we are working hard to pull back on a little bit. And I say that jokingly, but normally I ask people, you know, what's your go-to coffee order? What's your coffee routine in the morning? And I want you to answer that. But being that we're going to focus on nutrition in this episode, I also do want you to talk a little bit about the science behind timing of coffee in the morning, what caffeine does to the body, whatever you feel like could be really helpful for a listener out there who, like ourselves, have probably been very reliant on caffeine to get energy when we should be focusing on the more natural route of doing so.
Yeah. So my coffee drink is a 16-ounce almond milk white coffee, because I'm from Seattle, so we have white coffee with sugar-free white chocolate or just stevia and cinnamon. And
Yum.
The lynch. So, you know, we were talking before we hit the record button, you're like, we're going to bring that up about, I have cut back on coffee. Now, I will say this, caffeine and creatine are two of the most researched things like around. Like there's so much, caffeine is safe. There's nothing bad with it. It can be a great tool to use, like just like creatine.
Yeah, it has tons of benefits.
Tons of benefits. Timing of caffeine can make a difference in your day, right? Like think about it. Okay. If we have caffeine at 6 a.m. versus 6 p.m., we're going to have two different responses, right? One is going to disrupt our sleep. It's going to cause us to be restless. We get less sleep. We or less deep sleep. We wake up, feeling unrested. One is going to start our day, put us in a good mood. It's a warm, cozy bed. It gets us boopity boppity beeping in the morning. Like totally different responses. Same thing, different times, right? So, one of the newer things that a lot of people are talking about is just moving the timing of your caffeine a little bit later in the day, because I think a lot of people, there's the cortisol awakening response. And so that is when our cortisol, think about it in waves. So up and down and up and down, it goes in waves like that throughout the day. Cortisol is a stress hormone. It's good and bad, right? Too much of a good thing is a bad thing. Too little of a good thing is a bad thing. So you just want to kind of like an even keel, and you want it higher in the places it's supposed to be and lower in the places it's not, right? When somebody tends to have really high cortisol in the morning, it's when they wake up and they're like, boop, I'm ready to go. Like I'm up, I can't go back to sleep. I'm restless. As soon as I roll over, I pick up my phone and like my knee's shaking, my foot's wiggling. I'm going. That's a cortisol awakening response, right? And then what happens is if it goes up, it's got to go down somewhere, right? Because it's a wave, and it normally starts to go down a little bit of a dip, probably around like 10, 11, just depending on where you wake up. And it might go up again and then come back down for bedtime if you have a healthy cortisol pattern, right? So that's where we're like little morning lull, we get going again, little afternoon lull, get going again, and then we wind down for bedtime. So one of the things that I've looked into and I've been doing and kind of utilizing with some of my clients who have issues in the afternoon with fatigue or just feeling that second cup of coffee is having them wait a little bit. So when you wake up, waiting about an hour, maybe even two, to have your first caffeinated beverage. And it's really not that much. If you wake up, let's just say like you do morning meditation or journal, or you just get on your phone and Instagram, which is fine too. You're on TikTok or Tinder, who cares? Like, right? Like that's not the issue right now. The issue is like, where's your caffeine? And just giving yourself a little bit more water and get your body going throughout the day. And then bringing that caffeine in around 9, maybe even like 10 o'clock, 8 o'clock, just depending on what your schedule is. Normally you're going to have a little bit of a better response because you're not like you got a free cortisol bump in the morning anyways. If you can just learn to kind of like lean in and ride that wave as it wakes you up. And then when you feel tired in the afternoon, bam, hit that cup of coffee. And now you're like, zoop, 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 zoop. It's a little bit better of a response. It's not right or wrong. It's just something to maybe try. I mean, you might like it, you might not. There's some really cool research on it too. And I could dive into a fucking rabbit hole on it, but really that's just the gist of it for you. Like, try it. You might like it, you might not. If you're waking up in the morning and you are tired and you absolutely need coffee to wake up, you have bigger fish to fry. You should not be waking up exhausted.
I love what you said about, you were joking, like I could go down a whole rabbit hole. There's all this research on it. But then you also made the point of like, it's just something to try, like, and experiment with it. And I want to tie that back to what you said in your introduction of who you are and why you matter and your emphasis on being a nutrition mentor, because I think that approach goes hand in hand with you calling yourself that. So break that down a little bit more in terms of how we as coaches, and you and I have had this conversation, and I just think it's important if there's somebody listening who wants to become a coach or who is a coach and maybe they're struggling with clients, for us to kind of highlight like that we have this responsibility to remember that we don't necessarily have all the answers. And a lot of times it's like we might have a set of information and we don't have the guarantee that if we change this one thing, it's going to be like the magic pill for clients. We have to look at all these different things and test, and it can come to your gut. Like this is a very broad question, but I just kind of want your take on that as somebody who has actually been in the thick of it, working with people, myself included, and really having this responsibility and always going back to that every time you have a conversation with a client when you are giving them a, let's call it directive, as not necessarily being something that's like, hey, this is my directive and I'm going to guarantee you that it's going to get you results, because it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. I work in 2 ways. This isn't like in a textbook, but big and little fucks and low hanging fruit. And you're laughing because it's like, those. I'm always like the big and little fucks. Like, What is a big fuck? What is a little fuck? And it's like, what really matters, right? Because I'll have clients and like, I missed this and I had 30 carbs instead of 40 carbs and I was over by 5 carbs and then I had fat. So I rolled it over, and it's like I can just hear the tapping the keyboard, like check-ins are like 2 pages long. And I'm like, cool. Did you eat your protein feedings? Like, did you get your food in? Did you get your water in? Cool. Those are like kind of like big fucks. Or when we're looking at healing the body, low hanging fruit and smaller big fucks. Like I'm just going to can I use you as an example? Do you mind?
Yeah. But like I said, I want to be the test case here.
Yeah. So, one of the biggest things with Krista is, as you guys know, cause you follow her, she is a powerhouse and multidimensional. She has multiple businesses and multiple projects all going at the same time. So she has a million different directions that she can go in. She also has a fucking dog, and that dog is barking all the time. Yep. Right. And so it's like, I'm talking to her and like, we're doing like I'm like talking to her, and I can see this low grade stress because this dog's running around, this dog's doing this dog. And I'm like, we're talking, and like, I'm like in my head, I'm like, cool, we're just going to put the dog in the other room for a little bit and like get some work done. It's like, that's like a low hanging fruit. You know what I mean? We can't remove all the stress from your life, but what if we like got outside and walked? Like, okay, you can't get to, like, this is another one. Like, I can't get to the gym, and if I'm going to the gym, I'm going to do 45 minutes and cool. you're going to be on your phone anyways. Let's just put you walking on your phone outside in the sunshine in fresh air for 30 to 40 minutes a day. That's going to get you moving. It's going to get something going on, vitamin D on the skin. Like that's like a low hanging fruit. I didn't have to say you need to not be on your phone for 6 hours in the day and like do breath work and like that stuff is super beneficial. So hear my heart, but I have to look at where Krista is and I'd say, okay, let's just get you having some time where your dog isn't barking in the background. And then let's get you outside with your dog on your phone. Keep your phone with you. Or better yet, start to learn to leave your phone at home or do a podcast or find time to catch up on XYZ, reflect, but just get outside. And then once she's doing that, now I can come back in and I can go, cool, let's dive into sleep. And I did. I sent her a list of maybe 50 things. And I was like, pick 5 to 10 of these things that are realistic for you to implement for the next 30 days. I let her pick them. I'm not going to be like, do this and do that. Cause there's some things she's willing to give up and some things she's not. And again, big and little fucks. If she has 50 things that she does at night that keep her from sleeping and we're now doing 10 less, that's a win.
Yeah.
That's manageable. If I were to tell her you can't do any of this stuff anymore, she'll probably do it for 1 or 2 nights and then it'll slowly sneak in. Whoa, oh my God.
We're talking about sleep. It was a Freudian slip.
It'll slowly, sneak back in. And then she's like, well, I'm not doing all, so I might as well do none. Well, how about we just learn how to do some and get rid of the all or nothing mindset, right? And then when it comes to gut dysfunction and healing and hormonal issues, yep, somebody could come to me and I'm just going to use like a real client, but like obviously no
generically,
name.
Yeah.
Generically, right? Like comes to me and they undereat during the day. They work at home. They tend to drink a lot on the weekends. They go out and they do a lot of Uber Eats on the weekends. And they skip breakfast. They're doing, caramel macchiatos and a croissant or egg bites because egg bites have protein. And the caramel macchiato is now from a venti to a grande, which is cool. I mean, it's better, but there's the sugar crashes. And so, and complete gut dysfunction and all these issues. This client wants to lose weight. Now I could sit there and go, okay, we're going to pull all this. Also, this is your new macros. You're going to start tracking and weighing all of your food. This is your protein feedings. Those are going to be throughout the day. Also, we're going to do, we're going to get you moving. So here's a 5-day split.
It's like, you already lost me. Like if I'm putting myself in the shoes of that person, I'm like,
you know what? They're all in because people are all or nothing. They're like, absolutely, I'll do whatever it takes. And I'm like, okay, cool. And like, that's a big ask, right? Mm-hmm. But what is the lowest hanging fruit? Cool. Let's just have you start prepping all your meals at home. First 2 weeks, no eating out. Okay. That's manageable. Cool. Now let's pull out inflammatory foods, dairy and gluten. Okay. So like now we're stepping. Cool. Now I want you to start weighing your food. Awesome. Now let's look at protein timing. Now let's look at protein feedings. Let's hit the lowest hanging fruit. Like if I tell somebody they're going to save $200, like, hey, guess what? Like you just signed up for coaching, but you're also going to save $200 a week because you're going to be cooking at home. I don't really care what you cook. I'm going to give you like a basic grocery list. Try to stick to that, but I want you to start cooking whole foods. Just stick to that. That's more manageable for someone. And the thing is people are so all or nothing. They're like, okay, I'm going to do this new thing. I'm cutting out everything and my whole lifestyle is going to get overturned. And it's like, I literally have been with this client for like 5 months. And it's like, we're just tracking macros, weighing and protein feedings, but you know what? It's manageable for her. And she's completely overhauled her life. And you know what? Just by going from eating out to cooking at home, she has less gut issues. Just by not eating out and cooking at home, she has less inflammation. The scale is going down. We started getting more protein feedings. Her energy is going up. Her gut is healing even more. Once that happened, then we threw a gut healing protocol into the mix. Because as a coach, it is irresponsible for you to start somebody on a healing protocol when they are eating like absolute shit, not sleeping and not drinking water. You're wasting time, money, energy, and effort. You have to get the foundation there first, and then you can do it, because sometimes these hormonal dysfunctions and these SIBO cases and IBS and all this stuff that goes on, PCOS, is inflammatory responses in the body. And if we regulate blood sugar and we take out inflammation, these issues go away. So it's like low-hanging fruit.
And to your point about all the low-hanging fruit, and even what you said about like big fucks, little fucks, I think it's really hard for people because there's so many places and opportunities and things to read and things to listen to, and all of the information can tend to conflict. And then they're like, I don't know where to start. couple that with the all or nothing mentality that you've clearly underscored in describing myself, other clients you've worked with, it's like, we get you. Like, we get why this is hard. Like, I have had other nutrition coaching mentors who have said things to me, and I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, but I feel like it's something you could totally relate to. Like, the world is not designed for fat loss. It's literally not. Like, even when you go to the grocery store, and I want your take on that, because I have shared with clients my perspective, but so many people, like, I have clients that I've started to work with more recently who have really just been okay with, like, let's slow down. Let's do one thing at a time. Let's sign up for the expectation of this process might be slower than all the random ass shit we see on Instagram of the person who has a 6-pack in like 2 minutes, which is totally crazy. Obviously, I'm hyperbolizing, but making a point. To be like what you said, like, let's just start with protein. And then, can you pass go? Like, can you show me? You've said this to me. You were like, I know you want to lose body fat. Like, I know that's your goal, but until you show me that you can do this basic fucking thing of getting your protein every single day, you don't have a right to pass go, and go meaning like start this fat loss phase. And as soon as you said that to me, I was like, yeah, like I knew that already. Like, I know exactly what she's saying, but it's like I needed somebody else to give me the permission to then start the process in that manner and not put this pressure of like, well, I have to fix all of it now.
I think that we think readiness to change is different
Is
than it
enough.
actually is enough. Exactly. And then I always say you can want it, but you have to be willing. Wantingness and willingness are not the same thing. You have to be willing to make changes in your life, and you have to be willing to understand that it is going to take time to make those changes. Okay. So it's literally like if you had a 4-year-old kid, this is how I see my clients sometimes, and they come to you and they're like, I want to be a lawyer. My friends are lawyers. I want to be a lawyer. Hey, mom, I want to be a lawyer. And you're like, they're going to go to law school. And they're like, no, but I want to be a lawyer. Jimmy's a lawyer. Jimmy's dad is a lawyer. I want to be a lawyer. And you're like, we got to go to kindergarten first. And they're like, no, I'm going to law school. And they grab their suitcase and they run out the door, and they don't make it in law school. And you're like, if we would have put you in kindergarten, right? And then we would have put you in middle school, you went to high school, you went to college. Like, you may not have realized you want to be a lawyer, you know what I mean? But like, then you could have gone to law school. And when you got to law school, you're like, this is easy. And this is a lifestyle. But what people don't want to do is they don't want to learn the new habits. They just want weight loss to be there this is what I hear. I want to lose weight, but I also want to be realistic. And I want this to be a lifestyle. Cool. Let's learn a new habit. I don't know if I'm willing to do that. I just want the instant results.
And I think people don't like realize that competes.
Whenever I want. And you're like, cool, let's learn the foundation and the lifestyle first. That's how you're going to make this a lifestyle. They're like, I don't want to track macros forever. Cool. You haven't even tracked macros for a week. So don't, or like, I don't want to be wrapped up in macros all the time. I don't think it's healthy. Okay. Binge drinking on the weekend, gaining 30 pounds in a week, PCOS and a thyroid disorder isn't healthy. You don't have an issue with that.
I need that silence to just be there for a second, because like, it's such a mic drop moment of saying to people, hello, you got to wake up. And I want to use this as a way to tie this all together to your personal story of how did you get here, and how did you, like, regardless of the learning piece, and regardless of, you are one of the, just in terms of like soaking up knowledge and your ability to then apply information, I'm so impressed with how consistently you do that in everything I talk to you about one-on-one, and then also conversations I hear you have on other podcasts, when we're on Clubhouse, all of these things. But more importantly, there's an attitude that comes with that too, and the approach to be able to accept what you just said, like these two things that compete with each other, because you're saying you want something, but then you won't do the things to get there. And I feel like there's a clear parallel in my mind, knowing your story and knowing what you've been through, that through those experiences, you can take that parallel and apply it to the way you coach, the way you live your life by example. So break that down for us and unpack it a little bit more.
So I have a fearlessly driven mentality to fail forward. I have a very like long story, but we'll get the short of it of I started using meth when I was about 14 years old. And my parents they weren't drug addicts. My parents are awesome. I had some spirituality in my life, but not really, like a little bit of spirituality and religion in my life. But I had, this is going to sound so weird, but I felt like I was just destined to be a drug addict. I always saw it in movies. I thought it was cool. It was like, as soon as I was there, I felt accepted. I felt like it was the place I was going to be. And I think as a young kid dealing with emotions, trying to find out where you fit in the world, drugs is the number one place where you will always fit in. Absolutely. And I moved a lot as a kid, and I had, I easily made friends. I'm a very social person, as you know. But I never felt like I had substance in friends and long-term friends. I felt like it was just like, I got really good at connecting with people and just like, hey, cool. Like, let's be friends. And like, okay, let's just get like right to it. Like, we're friends now and let's hang out. And da-da-da. But I also felt a lot of loneliness and sadness in my life as well. And I struggled a lot. I struggled a lot with my weight, and I struggled a lot with an eating disorder. And when I found drugs, specifically meth, it was like the answer to all my problems, because I felt better. I wasn't eating. I was looking skinny. I felt accepted. I had a group of like friends who we were like, we're best friends till the day we die. You know what I mean? Like, and it's funny because I'll loop back around, but just where I am in comparison to like those 4 specific people that I'm talking about is, I'm just so fucking grateful to be alive. Like, I really, really am. And, well, I almost just got super emotional. That's so weird. I normally don't ever think about that, but, that kind of threw me off. So anyways, I spent a lot of time wrapped up in that, and I would get clean and sober, and I would do these bouts of being very successful. I like got clean and sober. I went and got my GED. I pulled my life together. I relapsed. I got clean and sober. I went to hair school. I started drinking all the time. I relapsed. I moved to Miami. I was clean and sober. I was doing coke all the time. Like, and I was doing really cool things in Miami. I was working in fashion shows. I was doing hair extensions. Then I opened up my own hair extension salon. Me and my first ex-husband, that's right. Me and my first ex-husband owned a production house together. We did music video production, concerts, really, really cool stuff. And so successful, but wrapped up in an eating disorder. What happened? I relapsed. So I'd have these moments of success in my life, and I could never quite fully understand how to get my life, how to get clean, how to like remove this like pain that I was feeling internally inside. And it took a lot of failing, and it took about 15 years, honestly. And well, until I was about 26, I started at 14. So whatever the math is on that. And I got sentenced. I got sentenced to 26 months in prison, and they gave me what's called a DOSA, Drug Offender Sentencing Act. And they told me that I was allowed to do 6 months in treatment. So I served time in custody, and then I did 6 months in treatment, and I got out, and then I had to do 26 months in community corrections. And anyone who tells you like parole is like a setup isn't ready to change. I got out, and I was humble, and I was fearless in like, I will do anything, just like back when I was on the streets. I'll fucking do anything. Like, anyone who knows me, like, I got a little bit of a wild side. Like it's a good thing I got clean and sober, you know, like I'll do whatever, you know what I mean? And so when I got clean, I was like, I have to have the same, I have to be fearless. I have to be fearless in love. I have to be fearless in the pursuit of happiness. I have to be fearless in failing. And I just lived a fearless life. And I ended up getting out, and I was in, you know, halfway house for Department of Corrections. And that you want to talk about living with some fucking weird roommates, whatever you think is weird roommate. I lived with 7 people in Department of Correction housing and mental health. It was just like whatever you think, I win. Okay. Like, we'll just leave it at that. I got bed bugs multiple times. It was straight hood. My neighbor got stabbed 32 times by his girlfriend. There was one of our roommates was like, or one of the people in the building was prostituting girls out of the bathroom. So I'd like go to the bathroom, and like I wouldn't be able to pee in the middle of the night. And I'm a midnight peer, you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh my God, like because somebody's turning tricks in there. I'm telling you, like, it was rough. And I was like so fucking determined to like just give it all I had to like change my life. And I did. I got a job. I started managing a tanning salon. I was like saving up to get out of there. And I'm at work one day, and this is like almost a full year after I've been released. I'm at work one day, and like I'm going to get a smoothie, and I'm gonna go, like, I'm leaving work and my friend's giving me a ride, and I like walk out of the tanning salon, and SWAT and task force surround me and pull up to the car, pull me up out of the car, get down on the ground, like, and I know these people. And there's the backstory on why they were so angry, but that's not the time or place. But like, I like, before I'd gotten arrested for my major charges, they wanted me to be a part of something. And I not only was not a part of it, I actually like had led them in a very opposite direction of what was going on. And it wasted a lot of money and manpower, energy, like just, it made them look like complete assholes, and they ended up losing a case over it. And so they were angry at me, and that's okay. That's okay. That has nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? And anyways, I was arrested, and I got, wow, I'm just going to fucking let it out. I got arrested for manufacturing charges, possession of a firearm, intent to distribute, intent to manufacture, possession of cocaine, possession of heroin, intent to manufacture crack or cocaine, and then intent to manufacture methamphetamine. So those are pretty hefty charges when you already have 7 felony points. So in the state of Washington, I was completely maxed out, meaning anything I do is a mandatory minimum of 26 months. Like the bare minimum I'll get for anything is like 26 months, right? And I was in jail, and I was like, holy shit. Like, how did I do everything right? I did everything right. Everything right. I went to meetings. I showed up. I never peed clean, like dirty. I was staying away from trouble. I was saying no to people. I was like in bed early. I was doing everything right. I was like praying. I was going to church. I was like journaling. Everything you could do to change your life, I was doing. I was putting in the motherfucking work. And I sat there, and I'm like, they opened the door, and like, look who it is. Same people I was in there with before. No different. And I'm there, and I'm a different person. Like, I am a different person, and I'm looking at them, and they are the same exact people we were just locked up with. I walked in, and it was like, oh, you're back. Hey, what's up, girl? And I'm like part of me was like, what up, girl? Like, you know, like you're just like back, like tank talk, you know what I mean? Like back in your cell and shit. You're like, oh, this is like, it's kind of like cozy. Like, you've been there for a long time, you know? But I was like looking around, and I just remember thinking, I was like, I'm not this person anymore. Like, I know who I am. I know that I've done the work. I'm not this person anymore. And I remember just like not even being able to sleep that night. And I was just awake, and I was just praying. Like, I was just like, Lord, like, I know that I'm here for a very specific reason. I'm not sure what it is, but I know that whatever happens is because it's a bigger part of the story, and I'm completely surrendered to it. If I'm supposed to go back to jail or go back to prison and get these charges, like, I'm fully accepting that, like, you have a bigger purpose for me to absolutely change someone's life inside prison. I'm just accepting that.
How do you think, I want you to keep going on this. Like, I could ask you a million questions, but I really want to stop you with what you just said, because thinking about all of the things that you had been through before that, both good and bad, like, I joke with you a lot. I'm like, you're only 30 something, and I feel like you lived like 10 lives already, right? But like, what do you think it was about that moment, other than the fact that you already touched on it a little bit, I'm sure it played a part, other than the fact that you said, like, you were like, fuck, I've done everything right, and I still wound up here. Was that attitude and that statement playing over and over and over in your head that drove you to be able to be like, this is it. Like, whatever comes out of this, like, I'm gonna make the best that I can out of this situation. Like, how did you just finally get to that place? Because I'm sure it was something, that feeling, you were just unknowingly searching for it that entire time through everything you went through.
One of the biggest things I realized in my times of like getting clean and going into treatment for DOC were 2 things. One, that I was absolutely called to purpose for a purpose. Like, I just felt like, holy shit, my story is really big. And like, I'm absolutely here for a much bigger issue. I'm here for something bigger. I've got goosebumps right now. I'm here for something bigger than I even know that I'm here for. And I also started realizing, and this is like, your thoughts become your beliefs, become your habits, become your reality. Your thoughts become your beliefs, become your habits and your reality. Like, it is absolutely 100% the truth. If you are sitting there and you're like, I've done everything wrong, fuck it. What's the point? I'm just doing, okay, try it. It may not change the position that you're in, but it'll change your outlook on that position. It's like if you have two people inside of a room and one person's like, it's a great day, and one person's like, it's a bad day. It's not a good day or a bad day. It's whatever you believe it is. Your outlook on the situation will absolutely change everything. When those two people walk out that door in the morning, who do you think's gonna have a better day? Same day, same, but different, right? It's like, it's amazing how much outlook can change. And it's so crazy because the next day when you get arrested, you'll just spend 1 or 2 days and then you go to like a court hearing and they like kind of like tell you like what to expect. Like you can, go for bail. So I'm thinking there's going to be bail. And I've been arrested many, many times. No one ever really been at my bail hearing, maybe 1 or 2 people, right? And like I go down and like there were probably 7 or 8 people down there for me. 7 or 8 people, which is actually a lot to just and I'm not talking about like everyone came together. Individual people showed up to speak on my behalf about who I was as a person now. And I was like, whoa, like I just got goosebumps. Like, wow, I'm impacting people on a way that like I don't even realize, you know what I mean? And people are like proud of me and they know who I am as a person. And my public defender, who was my public defender way long ago, was the same public defender. And she's like, what are you doing back here? And I was like, you're never going to believe this. And I told her, and she's like, okay, let's just go before the judge. And we go before the judge and there's the longest silence. And I'm like my heart, I'm almost like reliving it right now. Like my heart is racing and I'm sweating and I just like, I'm sad and I'm happy and I'm trying to be grateful and I'm sad and I'm happy and I'm grateful and I'm sad. And I'm like, I'm thinking about, because I had just fallen in love with my ex-husband who I loved so much. Like, you want to talk about fearlessly loving. We had the most amazing relationship for a long time and I love him forever. He's my best friend. Wouldn't change it for the world. We are not each other's people, but he is absolutely a major part of my story. And I'm absolutely a major part of his story. And I remember looking back at him, like he's about to cry. And I'm looking at the judge and she's like, she's looking at the prosecuting attorney. And she's like, what are your thoughts on this? And the prosecutor's like, I think that we have the same thoughts, Judge. I'm willing to hear your position on this sense. And she's like, basically like, I was arrested. I should have never even been arrested. The situation that I was in, I was a witness and should have never been arrested for those actual crimes. And the statute of limitations for arrest on that was almost up anyways. So the fact that they arrested me and weren't even planning on filing a case with no evidence for a witness, not the person who was actually the person committing the crimes, they threw it out and they released me. And the judge told me, if I see you back, it's going to be a different situation. And I was like, I'm good. You know what I mean? I have court files forever. So they can see when a person all of a sudden,
how many times, yeah.
They have my DOC files, they have my check-ins, everything. And so they let me go. And I was like, whoa, dude, like you want to talk about like unbelievable gratitude in a moment where I was like, okay, I have to like do something with this. I cannot waste this. I cannot waste my life. I cannot waste my purpose. I cannot waste my impact on people. I cannot waste my ability to connect for something that isn't going to like change lives. Like I want to be a catalyst for change in people's lives. I want to help people have a better quality of life. I'm not at the time, I don't know what that means, but I'm just like, I want to help people, not in it, like not fitness or anything. I'm like, I just want to help people because I know if I can help, like, I know if I can help you, you're going to go and help other people. They're going to show up better in their life. They're going to be better parents, better husbands, better wives, better products at work. And then those people are going to have better, you know what I mean? It's a change agent. It's a catalyst.
Domino effect.
It's the domino effect. I want to be the first falling domino to help people. And like, I just want to help people. You know what I mean? And this is like crazy, but like, even like the guys that I've dated, like this is like whatever, right? I always get like this like text randomly where it's like, you left me better basically than how you found me, you know?
That was the text I got after I broke off my engagement. So
I want you to be a better person
level.
because you know me. We may not have worked out or we may not be compatible or like, but like, I want you to be I want people to be better because they know me. I want to be better because I know you. I feel the same way about I love people. I love to get to know people's stories. I love to help people. I am getting better at letting people help me. That is something I struggle with at times, but like, I just want to have this impact. And then when I got clean and sober and I started getting into fitness and like, it started with Advocare. I was doing 24-day challenges. And then all of a sudden Advocare shut down as a company. I lost everything in my finances with them. And then I was like, I'm just going to start doing this without products. And I started getting educated, becoming a health coach. You said it before, I don't need to throw all my certificates out of there. I am highly educated. I don't have any college degrees, but I'm not only educated, but I do a lot of application as well. And
you prioritize continuing education better than a lot of people that I know.
It is my first priority, because if I don't know, if I'm not keeping up, if I'm not learning new things, I'm being a one-dimensional coach. And I have clients who come to me that I can throw macros at in a food plan, and they will hit that every single day. They're not going to miss a single step. And I have people that just need to learn what is a protein, and I have to be able to be a coach to both those people.
Both. Mm-hmm. And take me back really quick to, you mentioned fitness and that you knew in the moment when you got that statement from the judge and you were standing in court and you were like, wow, like I'm meant to help people. You've mentioned other professions that you've had where you have had the capacity to help people. All service industry type jobs, hair, like we joke all the time with people in the aesthetics and beauty world with fitness. Like there's a lot of similarities there of like being somebody's therapist, right? So for you, what was it about fitness that finally spoke to you for whatever reason that you were like, this is what I'm going to do with my desire to help?
Why fitness?
Why fitness? Like,
well, I always had an eating disorder. So, and a disordered mindset around food. My parents are overweight. My parents grew up with a binge eating, dieting cycle around me where they would just like diet hard during the week or keto, or my dad does a lot of like fasting and then go out and like binge eat like a huge meal. And like, so that is a huge thing, right? That they do. And I grew up around that. And then I took on those habits of extreme dieting and binge eating and all that kind of stuff. So I always struggled with that. I love fitness. I love the way I feel when I work out. I feel strong. I feel confident. I feel sexy. Like sexy is a feeling when you wake up and you're like, I did the damn thing. You know what I mean? It's not like a size or whatever. And so for me, just walking through that journey and like, I love helping people feel like the best version of themselves, because there's nothing better than when you feel good in your own skin. And there's nothing worse when you don't feel like yourself in your own skin. And I have a little bit of that going on at times right now that I'm struggling with, because, I had lost a bunch of weight, and then I was like at a kind of like middle range for a very long time. And then I dieted down for a show and got very lean, and then came back up. When I came back up, I'm a lot heavier now. I'm about 15 pounds heavier now than where I was like my set point was. And I had to do it. It was a little like healing cocoon, as I say. Like I had to be fearless in my pursuit of health, and I had to let go of the scale and like a body weight and number. But there's times where like that movie where the girl's like, oh my God, I'm so beautiful. Like all of a sudden she like gets a concussion and she sees herself differently. I see myself as the old me, which is great because I see myself as so beautiful and like this cute little petite little thing. And then sometimes I see pictures and I'm like, oh yeah, that's actually not what I look like. And it's hard.
But you bring up such a good point about loving yourself for exactly where you're at, because if you can't do that, it's like legit impossible to get to the
I have been
other side, like whatever that is.
Not loving myself. I have been thick and I have been thin and I have not been happy 100% of the way. I am at times I'm like, whoa, is that actually like what I look like? I'm like, whoa, because I'm like, whoa, I'm way bigger than I thought. You know what I mean? I'm like, or like in my head, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh wow, like I'll see a picture and I'm like, well, like in comparison to someone else, I'm like, I feel like next to like when I'm looking at this person, I feel like we're the same size. And then I look and then I see a picture and I'm like, we're definitely not the same size, you know? And it's funny because it's like I'd rather have myself in my head be a thin me than a thick than an overweight or unhappy or not. Like in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm a certain person. But I will tell you, I love myself so much. I really don't give a fuck. And I hate this movement where it's like, you shouldn't care what you look like. Your health should matter. you should care a little bit what you look like. You should get up, shower, and take care of yourself because you're a queen. And when you take care of yourself, you feel good about yourself. That's different than loving yourself. Like, I'm like, at the end of the day, one, okay, never had a complaint. You know what I mean? Never had a dude be like, actually, like, you're kind of thick. You know, like, no, like, never happened. Two, like, you can roll me over and it's all good.
They don't really. I had some. This is so funny because I had somebody else on my podcast from the male perspective, saying about women. He goes, "Gonna let you in on a little secret, guys. The ladies don't give a fuck if you have abs. So it goes the same way. Like, you know,
dude, it's absolutely true. And I will tell you, like, I like when I started realizing it, I was like, I've dated all types. You know what I mean? And it's like I've never dated somebody who was like super, like most of the people that I dated that were super rock hard and chisels and stuff like that. Like, I didn't think of them any more or less as somebody who necessarily wasn't. I'm big on how that person makes me feel. If I feel safe and secure with that person, I feel sexy as shit. Like it. And then I was like, wow, what if I had this safety and security with myself? How good would that feel? And it feels fucking good.
Why do you think that's so hard for people to achieve? I've really had a journey of examining that over the past year because I did the work and I did that in the form of self-reflection, in the form of therapy. And I'm super open about what my mental health experience has been like, the context of my relationships, and being able to take a step back and analyze and be like, wow, I've had this tendency to kind of always be in a relationship. We joke like serial monogamist, and it's totally a thing that I've seen in my own life. And it's made me be like, wait a sec, I haven't spent enough time getting to know me. And that's actually a problem because then it's like, well, how do you know what you want? And then ultimately shifting your focus to believing that somebody else is not going to bring you happiness and that's not an external factor, but they can add to it. Why do you think that's so hard for, let's speak to the females out there because I think we're more in tune with this. Why is that so difficult? Like, what is your perspective on that?
So fucking crazy. I literally was up until like almost 12 last night having this exact conversation. I'm not even kidding. And so it's like, yeah, I mean, I think I am not a mental health professional, not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I've done some work on myself. I've failed. I've loved. I failed again. Like, and I'll fearlessly love until the day I die. But what I will say is some big things that I've realized in the past year or two is that, it's really easy to fall in love with the idea of being in love and not with the person that you are in a relationship with. And I think in society and just as women, we feel so much worth when we can bring value to someone else's life. That's why I love coaching. I do, you know? But when we put our identity and our worth into how much someone else loves us and how much we can get someone else to be infatuated with us or whatever, we're putting our worth in something that isn't really measurable, because the minute that person's tired and shows up at home, you're like, oh, they don't love me anymore. I'm failing. You know what I mean? So I think that learning to identify who a person is and who you are in a relationship and know that you I love being single. So then why be in a relationship? I love being single. I did not before. I love being single now, where it's at times it's like, why would I be in a relationship? Well, because it's nice to share your life with somebody. And if two people can independently be strong and secure and come together and have a collective life where they can share those journeys together, that's a beautiful fucking thing. When you can be where you can be strong on your own, but somebody can actually be in your life and they can make you a little bit better, not where you depend, but them being in your life makes you better. That's a good reason to be in a relationship. Sex is a good reason to be in a relationship. Laughter, bonding. If we want to talk about like actual like oxytocin, like the love pheromones and stuff like that, there's a lot. There's vitality, there's life. Holding someone's hand can reduce cortisol. There's a lot of reasons to be in a relationship. But I think that the ability to understand why you want to be in a relationship and what you're actually looking for. Because if you're looking for love, it's easy to fall into a relationship because lust and feelings and stuff like that, they occur right away, right? But when you can go like, am I in love with the idea of being in love? Like, am I playing a whole movie in my head and it's this beautiful rom-com and I'm buying into this movie and I'm falling in love with this movie, the guy next door, the guy in my apartment building and this and that. And then all of a sudden, like, we're like, oh, it reminds me of this movie. And like, he smiles and I smile. And then like, we're like so in love and like, and then he loves me.
We just worked
so
up this whole story.
Yeah. He loves me so much. And like, I love him so much. And like, we just like each other so much. Okay, besides liking each other, what do you like about this person? Oh, the way they make me feel. Okay, but what about this person do you like? Because if you are only going for this person because of the way they make you feel, now you are literally relying on that person making you feel a certain way to be in love with that person. That's not going to last. You should love that person for who they are to themselves and what interactions you guys have together, and not fall in love with the idea that this person has to grant you love and affection all the time for you to be happy.
That's huge. And I think it's a struggle in the sense that like it ultimately, I think in my life, in the people that I've met and my own experience, you realize that as a, let's call it, quote, consequence of a failed relationship. And it's like usually one that was monumental in some way. And I hate that it's become this thing that it's like back to that all or nothing. It takes this like extreme scenario for you to learn that and then tie it back to nutrition. Same idea. Most people will come to you when they're at a point of like, I am just so beside myself. Like, I'm not happy that I look this way. And in the back of their mind, there's that little voice. I do know how I got here, but it competes with like, well, I want to change it overnight. And something that I find a lot that I want your opinion on before we wrap this up is how often are you talking to clients about this idea that developing new habits and ultimately unlearning a lot of the shit that we've learned over our 20 plus years of life, our 30 plus years of life, our 40 plus years of life, if it took you that long to learn it, you're not going to unlearn it and you're not going to change those behaviors and those habits in 1 month, in 2, in 6, and sometimes not even in a year.
It's one thing to say, don't do something. I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that. I do it to my daughter all the time. Hey, don't do that. Don't do that. But what if I was like, hey, instead of that, why don't we do this? Oh, okay. Now we're on to something, right? Cool. Don't, I'm trying to think of an example for you, but it's even like, cool. What if like, okay, like you have 50 podcasts loaded. What if you didn't do podcasts and you did, instead of that podcast, why don't right there, we put your workouts right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly what we did.
Yeah, your day's crazy because you get started in the morning and then you stop and then you go to the gym and then you come back and then you got to shower and then you got to eat. Then cool. What if I'm like, oh, well, we just need to make more time. We need to reschedule. No, like, cool. Let's just, let's put your workouts to the end of the day.
And when you put it that way, to go back to your low hanging fruit point, it wound up being such an obvious thing to me. I'm like, why didn't I think about that?
Yeah. When I have clients and they're like, I do this and I just like this. Cool. Let's get a chai tea latte in the morning. Let's start with something. They're like, I don't like the sweetener. It's like, okay, get half sugar-free, half regular, or start to learn what half sugar in that looks like. Cool. If I'm like, you just can't do Starbucks anymore. Well, now we're taking a complete ritual out of their morning. Mm-hmm. But then sometimes they're like, I don't have time. Okay, but you have time to go stand in line at Starbucks and order. And then like, you know, but then it's like, oh, now we can order on the app. So like, that's always not like always a thing, but like same thing. People are like, I don't have time to prep. So I eat out. And like before COVID, y'all, before Uber Eats, that meant you leave work, you grab your stuff, you grab your crew, you'd walk to wherever you guys are to eat. You sit down, you order, you have the time. You have the time. You just don't want to make the time. So what if we give you this? What if we like swap out? Because sometimes it's a lot easier to give like somebody a solution than to tell them not to do something. You can't do this anymore.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think, and that's also just such a highlight of working with somebody versus trying to use an app and do it yourself. You and I had a conversation about this yesterday about people who participate in programs for a certain period. And I mean, I even experienced this myself. Like there's this little bit of cockiness that comes in where like you feel like, let's keep on the macros train, just as the example, not necessarily showing preference to a specific diet out there like that. In our experience and the people we work with, like I always say it this way, it kind of gives me like the sandbox to get people to play in, and I use it as the parameters, but we can take it in lots of different directions. And so sticking with that example, I found this in my own experience. I find this sometimes in people I work with. It's like they kind of like get really good at macros in the sense that like they tend to start to eat the same things. They can keep it routine. It makes it easier because it is becoming a habit. And then they're like, oh, I'm good. And they want to try to do it on their own. But then they come back to you like 2-3 months later and they're like, not so good anymore. So in those scenarios, if you've been with them yourself or you've talked to other coaches about it, like what kind of lessons can we take away from that as the coach to better coach that person, to better equip them with a mindset that is ultimately achieving that goal of making this a lifestyle? Because it's not the app itself, it's not the phone, that is the lifestyle.
So I have clients that I've had for a very long time. And when are you good enough? This is a question for you. When are you good enough?
What do you mean in terms of like my nutrition or just in general in life?
Good enough?
I feel like I'm never good enough.
Okay. Most people do feel like that. As a coach, if I can identify what the next area of work that you can do is, I'm going to do it. As soon as I see you doing one thing, cool. How's stress at life? How's your work-life balance, baby? I know you're crushing your macros. I see the scales dropping. How are you?
Mm-hmm.
How's homeschooling going? Crazy, good. My mother-in-law's in and out. It's been this, it's been that. Cool. Do you have boundaries? Where's your self-love care throughout the week? What time are you making for yourself? Cool. The next 3 weeks, they're going to be about us learning how to be stronger in our self-love. You down for that? Are you cool with that? Can we do that? I'm in it. Awesome. I'm going to hold you accountable to that every week. Cool. Now we're working on something new as a coach. I'm coaching you in another area.
That is so important. It falls back into the big FYX bucket.
Falls back. Exactly. And then it's like, cool. Now we're doing self-love. Awesome. Are you getting outside at all? You want to do let's do a little challenge for the next 4 weeks. Why don't we get outside twice a week? And people always want to be doing something where people get bored. You know what I mean? But also like you have to know your clients. Like I've got clients where they're like, I can't do the Excel sheet. And I'm like, okay, I'm looking at your food. Like you're fine anyways. We've been tracking for a year. We don't have to do the Excel sheet anymore. We're good. If you start having issues, I might have you start doing that again. But like for the most part, like, okay, we can just track our food. But like, what's the next thing? Like I noticed like you're a stress case. Like how many hours a night are you sleeping? Okay, let's dive into that. And it's nice because my clients, it's not all at once that somebody is a better sleeper. Like my clients, once they've been with me for about 6 months to a year, their hormones are good. Their sleep is normally between 8 to 9 hours of sleep. They're well rested. They're not having chronic fatigue, and their sex drive is normally back with regular periods. But we didn't do all that at once.
Mm-mm.
We took each one as it came, and we worked on each new adventure. As we healed one, we're like, okay, what if we started working on this? Where's time management? Cool. I know you've been running a lot. Have you ever thought about doing a race? You have always? Okay. What if we change your training? What, you want to switch it up a little bit? Let's train. Let's do some endurance training. We're going to put your food up a little bit higher to support your recovery in your body. Why don't we do it? Why don't we set a date and go for it? What's on your bucket list? Let's accomplish whatever you need to accomplish in life. I will be right by your side. We'll figure it out.
I think that's a really great clarification for people to know that as nutrition mentors out there, like we want to look at so many more things than just your food. And you said that at the very beginning of this conversation, and now illustrating some very specific examples of that. And ultimately, that is what will help you be holistically a better person. To go back to your story about your own personal struggles and knowing that you want to be here to help somebody and having the domino effect on lots of people. Maybe that was kind of your thought process at the time when you were standing in front of that judge of like, I want to help as many people as I can. I now see for you in my own experience of us working together and you talking to me about other people that you've worked with, me talking to you about people that I've worked with, we're now finding the domino effects within that same person, like all the things in their life that by helping them, which might have opened the door, the conversation could have opened through food. But then it becomes all these other little things and you just show up better. And I feel like one of the other pieces that we didn't touch on is just the idea that it's having the accountability to somebody else. It kind of gives you permission to question these things and gives you permission to really take a look at like what's bothering you underneath all of that. Like the food is the top layer.
Saying that like yesterday, and it doesn't always have to be a coach. Sometimes hearing it from somebody that you know cares about you can matter the most. So like I'm really proud of, I'm proud of where I am. I'm proud of who I am, and I'm proud of my accomplishments, but I'm always thinking about where I could improve and like what I could do. Like, okay, so like, then what, like with this, and I think one of the things is like that. So that occurred the other day as I was talking about presenting at PEC, and I was like, this is a really big deal. I've always wanted to do it, and I've always envisioned myself doing it. And then when they asked me, I was like, I knew it was only a matter of time, right? But then I was thinking like, what's my next? So like, what's next, you know? And I haven't really just been like, wow, I'm here. And like, this person was like, yeah, just don't forget to like be proud of where you're at in the moment and experience it and like feel it. And I was like,
that comes with the work of accepting compliments too. Those go hand in hand.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, wow, I'm like, this person is right. I need to just like really give myself like some praise right here and just be like, wow, you're doing great. And like, you're in this moment and experience it because you've been working really hard for this moment. So it's funny because even as me, I'm not perfect. I have a whole team of people helping me be a better version of me. I have mentors. I read books. I have therapy. I have a nutrition coach. I have a hormone replacement therapy doctor that I see. I have friends in the industry that I ask questions to. Like I have people that I connect with that hold me accountable to the highest version of myself. And I do work daily.
I love it. Well, I think that's a perfect place to wrap it up and really quick move into lightning round. Give me like 60 more seconds of your time.
Okay.
Fun questions. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. What is your number one exercise movement? Like if you can only do one for the rest of your life, what would it be? What lift?
Glute bridge.
Glute bridge. All right. Build the booty.
Yeah. Upper glute is my weakness. You know what I mean? I got bottom shelf. I'm an upper glute girl. So that's kind of my favorite thing. And then, you know, a bent over barbell row for my back. I love training back.
What do you think is one of the most underrated exercises that let's keep it to females? Like we aren't doing enough.
Inverted rows. So hanging from a bar and rowing.
Why do you think it's underrated?
Because I don't think enough people use it. And I think it's one of the most dynamic movements that you can do to build a strong back, rotator cuff, rear delt.
That's interesting because it's funny that you bring that one up because I'm thinking back to like when I was doing a lot more group fitness and we incorporated that often with like TRX movements and stuff. And it's pretty scalable. So it's easy to teach in a group fitness setting. And it was one that women tended to struggle with a lot. Like they would surprise themselves when they could do it or what kind of like set them off with changing the position of their feet and that sort of thing. So I see a lot of like value in that in my own life and evidence of that in my own life, I should say. Let's talk about fitness gear. What's like one brand? I know that you have a favorite that you can't live without.
So Celestial Bodies, I have a code. It's Sonia. They're just my favorite. Their mission and their vision and their values is unreal. The creator, Celeste Bond, she's absolutely amazing. She's just a powerhouse of light and love and women's empowerment. And I have a very like rock and roll edge about me, I guess you could say. Like I just always have. I have a very unique style. It's always been there. It's always going to be there. It's one of my favorite things about me, you know, like, and they match that energy. Every time they drop a new launch, it's always vastly different and it's fun. And, the clothes also fit really well. They fit well when I'm thin and they fit well when I'm thick. And I always feel good in them. So.
If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Potatoes.
Knew you were going to say that one. Set you up for that one. Why do you love potatoes so much?
Oh my God. When was the last time you had potatoes?
This morning I had sweet potatoes. I love them. I'm just curious, like what got you in on
the last time you had like golden potatoes?
Like 2 days ago. I have them in my house right now. I'm a big potato girl too.
Yeah. I mean, I just love them. They taste good. They're really
safe.
They
go with everything.
When you have gone through a gut issue, they're a really safe carb in a sense.
Okay.
You want to hear the nerd about it?
Yeah.
They actually have a resistance type 3 starch, which is resistance type 3 starch, which is actually one of the most beneficial resistance starches that they have. So resistant starch is actually a type of starch that the body cannot break down, but is one of the best types of prebiotic foods for gut microbiome. It also has a huge impact in insulin sensitivity inside of the body. So your ability to process carbohydrates. It has one of the top, like for feeding gut, but also for repairing the mucosal lining of the gut. And there's actually some anti-inflammatory properties of it. So from a standpoint, resistance type 3 starches I can give you the link for the PubMed studies that they did on this, but like have exponential benefits for like lowering cholesterol. Like I said, insulin issues. So they're super, like, not only do they taste delicious, but like they're super beneficial to your health. I also really like burgers and sushi. So, I mean,
I'm such a burger girl.
Yeah, I love burgers.
And I hope everyone in hearing all that science, you also heard carbs are your friend.
Yeah.
Big PSA. Yeah. If you could only I know your big topics that you really zero in on with sex drive, with hormones, sleep, stress management, all those things are connected. But let's say you're talking to somebody and for whatever reason, like you can only give them one piece of advice without really knowing too much about their health history. Like what would you leave people with? Like if it was, I don't know, like some scenario where you only had like 2 seconds to tell somebody something, what do you think would be like your best piece of advice to help them get them on their way in pursuing their health and fitness journey?
For a health and fitness journey, I would say, piece of advice is track your food, look for balance. Like break it up into a pie chart. Track your food, 25, 35, 55, no, 33 across the board. If you can do that, you're fine. If you can do that and you track your food, I promise just that alone will start all the rest. Like that is like, you don't know what you can't change. You can't change what you don't know.
Yep. I like to say, I'm stealing this quote from somebody, but we can't fix what we don't measure. So we got to start somewhere.
Coach, I'm not losing weight. Haven't seen any weight logged in the app or your tracker for the past 2 weeks. Right. I haven't been weighing myself. Okay, well, have you been measuring yourself? No.
So tell me how you know that you're not losing weight.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm on hormone replacement therapy and I do a testosterone shot. And every time I do my testosterone shot, my weight shoots up like 4 pounds the other day, and I was like, oh my God, I feel so lean. I look so good. And I stepped on the scale and I was like up 4 pounds. And I was like, cool. Like I didn't even need it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't even, what I think and what we know, like all this kind of, it's like totally, it's like, who cares? You know what I mean? But I can measure my inches and I know that I'm looking better. You know what I mean? It's like, who cares?
And last but not least, what is your shameless plug? Tell us where we can find you and kind of like any parting message that you have for us for today.
Shameless plug. So you can find me at Sonia Spil on the gram, at Sonia Spil on Instagram.
I tag her all the time. So if you don't watch my stories,
shameless plug. The education or the Physique Education Collective, if you are a coach listening to this and you want to have more information, it is absolutely a non-negotiable for you, not just in the education that you will come back with and in the application for your clients, but in the networking and community that you will create by going to these events.
And we'll both be at the one in Nashville, so like hang out with us.
On sleep. We're going to have a great time. The physiqueeducationcollective.com tickets go up in price to $400 on like the 16th, which y'all, like if you knew like how much money I spent on literally just like a single class from some of these presenters, $400 is a steal. And you're getting tons of presenters on many, many topics, and you get to come hang out with us in Nashville. So
I'll be sure to link that down in the show notes too. So if any other coaches out there who are listening, even if you can't come to that event, I think Sonia just made a great point, and I even emphasized it earlier in saying how much she prioritizes continuing education. We can't fix what we don't measure, and we don't know what we don't know. So do something about it. Like I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I wish I could remember who said it, but they were just making the point that like, we got Google, like use it and be your own self-advocate in that regard. If you're listening to this and you're not a coach and you're just like, if something doesn't feel right to you, like question it. And you and I have talked about that a lot.
And I think one more thing too that I'll add in is if you live in the Washington area, the Pacific Northwest, later this summer, we're going to be doing a women's education collective kind of thing.
Nice.
And so I'll post details on that as we have them on Instagram. So if you're in the area, we'd love to have you come out and just kind of get more of this one-on-one education.
Love it. Well, Sonia, thank you so much. This will definitely not be the last that we are sitting down with you. I think I am planning to be very transparent about my fitness journey, as I always have been in the past, but we're going to have tons of more data coming for you guys as we roll through our coaching together and just the things that we learn and experiment on, and changing mindset, changing approach to training, changing approach to the way we're eating and all that good stuff. We're in the thick of it with you guys too. Like we feel you and we see you in all those capacities. So thank you so much to everybody out there who listened today. Appreciate you guys tuning into the show. As always, if you liked it, leave a review, but more importantly, share this message, because that's how we help people get better. This has been The Fix. Have an awesome rest of your day.